Hello friends, May Flom here. Welcome to the studio. I'm doing a new series all about scrapbooking and how to get things started, right? Because there's a lot of information out there about techniques and that kind of stuff, but there's not as much help about, okay, but how do I really get going, right? How do I really start it? Well, as someone who started scrapbooking more than 30 years ago, and as someone who has done everything from write the book on scrapbooking to manage a scrapbook store, I figured I would do a little YouTube series here on my channel, and we're going to cover all kinds of different topics. Go ahead and read in the description if you want to see all the videos coming, and depending on when you're watching this, all the videos available to you to share. So today, to get started, if you just want to start, right? You just think, I want to start scrapbooking, or maybe you stepped away from it and you want to come back and you're overwhelmed. Where do I even begin? In the next video, we're going to be talking about literally starting a scrapbook page. In this one, what we're talking about is the actual project, because something I have learned and something I have really come to understand a lot better is when you're going to scrapbook, it really does help long term. You're going to be much happier with your results, generally speaking, if you had a plan. So instead of just saying, I've got photos, let's make a scrapbook, let's slow down for a second and make the plan. And that's what we'll discuss today. The first thing is, you might think, oh, well, pick the album size and buy the stickers and do all. Hang on. The very first thing to answer is this: what is the purpose of your scrapbooking? We need an answer. So it doesn't have to be tricky. I swear I'm not trying to trick you, but what is the point? So here's a few examples. Right now I'm finishing up a Disney World vacation album. That is the scrapbook I'm working on. This is what I am scrapbooking. I took a trip to Disney World. I want to document it. That is the entire point, focus, and purpose of that album. This album here is an 8x8 album, the entire purpose of which is telling the stories of a 48-hour whirlwind last-second trip to New York City to see a very special performance before the musical went out forever of theaters. So that was the focus there. That is the album there. It can also be, there's lots of different reasons. It could be, I'm telling my life stories. I want to tell one story per week for the next year. I want to tell the story of a wedding. I want to start a baby album or a child's book. I want to make a gift for someone else. I did this cool thing and I want to talk about it. There's not a wrong answer, but we do need an answer before we can go any further. So if you are saying, May, I've got like 17 things I want to do, pick the top one. If you cannot pick the top one, pick the top 3 or the top 5, write them down, and either close your eyes and randomly pick, or put them all in a hat, pick one out, and that's where you begin. Because we can always make more scrapbooks, but we need to take it easy. We need to really focus and hone in on one purpose, one reason. So now you've got the reason, right? This is the focus. This is what we're doing. For my example, I will stick with the Disney World one because that's the one I'm finishing up. Once we have the focus, then step number 2 is get realistic about working on this album. How much time do you have? How much time do you want to spend? How much money do you want to spend? And how much work is what you're dreaming of? Assuming you have a budget, you're going to have to make choices, right? We're going to have to be realistic. I can say lots and lots of things. It doesn't mean I have the resources to make it happen. Now, that's not to say it can't happen. That's not to say I can't make that a priority, but I want to try to be realistic here. So that's, for example, you're not going to see me say, I'm going on a diet and I won't ever eat chocolate or ever enjoy sugar in my tea ever again. Guys, that ain't happening. So we want to be realistic in our goals here. So what that means is, realistically, number 1, is there a time crunch? Do you need this? Is it a gift? Do you need it by some date? Are you trying to catch up? So you'd really like to move this along and get some of these projects going. Okay. Are you more flexible? Is this something like perhaps you're going on a scrapbook retreat and you want to work on this on a scrapbook retreat? What are we doing? What does our timeline look like? And realistically, week to week, Can you commit to 1 hour, 5 hours, 10 hours a week or a month to work on it? What do you realistically have? Now, I had tried to finish my Disney World album in 3 days, 4 days at a scrapbook event. And then I said, oh, I didn't finish it, but that's okay because I'm going to do another one in June. It's July. I didn't get to it in June. It didn't happen. I hoped for it, but it didn't happen. So I'm still having to work on that. I still need to pick that back up and finish that off. Not a problem. I'm not stressing it. It's just a reminder that we need to be realistic with ourselves about what kind of time do we really have to dedicate to the project and what kind of budget do we have to dedicate to the project. If it's a more limited budget, sometimes it can work really well to work slowly in batches so that you have more time between shopping sprees. If you have an unlimited budget, well, you know what? Do you want to come over? I got a shopping. I'm just kidding. If you have a bigger budget though, or if you have a really big stash of craft supplies like I do here, you can do a no spend. You can just say, you know what? I'm just going to work with what stuff I have on hand. So what kind of budget are we talking about? How much time are we talking? And now that that's, so we've got a focus, we're realistic about what we have resource-wise to give to this. Now, part 3, what is the scope of this project? And what I mean by that is this a 48 hours in New York? And I thought I'd have a few more stories than this, but you know what? That's quite a few stories for 2 days. So this, I picked an 8x8 album. I figured 48 hours in New York, but I have a lot of stories and every single minute was full. We're gonna do this up. That's good. But example, the 10-day trip we took to Florida and Disney World, there's a lot more going on in a 10-day trip, and we were doing stuff all day and night. I mean, there were just tons and tons of stories. There's even a story involving a hospital. Lots of interesting things happened that trip. If I'm going to do a story like that, I'm going to need more space because I'm also going to have hundreds of photos versus dozens of photos, and it's just going to take up more space. So determining how many pictures, but also story-wise, are these big stories? And even with the photos, okay, if you have 500 pictures, but 200 of them are scenic views from your cruise ship room, you really don't need 200 of those. Maybe a dozen at most, 2 dozen if we're going to get crazy. You see what I'm saying? How many photos do you really have, and how many stories do you really have to tell? Sometimes it helps to journal this out. I would really recommend you kind of write out, okay, here's what I'm seeing. When I think of this scrapbook, I'm thinking of this. If you want to get ahead of yourself here, this would be a great place to actually, and I would actually recommend, these are the stories I want to tell. These are kind of the categories of pictures, right? I have pictures of this, I have pictures of that, I have stories of this, stories of that. If you have any ephemera, if you have tickets or maps or movie stubs, I don't know, whatever it is, wedding program, whatever it is, you might want to list, like have a couple of lists going there. Because when you see all of that on paper, sometimes it's bigger than you thought. Sometimes it's a lot smaller than you thought. But seeing all of that together will help you determine, okay, all I really need is a single page and a bigger album. And the bigger album topic, okay, reevaluate. We're going to reevaluate with the topic of the album. Adventures, I don't know, whatever it is. But you may also find you looking at it and saying, you know what, something like an 8-inch album or smaller, you can go down to 4x6 album if you wanted, or you want to go up to a 12-inch by 12-inch album and have more flexibility and be able to put more stuff in there. That's an option. You could even go so far as to realize this might take 2 or 3 albums for this particular whatever topic. Years and years ago when we did a family trip to Europe, I thought there's probably not a shot it was going to all fit into one album, because obviously we saved for like a decade for that trip, and then we went for 3 weeks. 3 weeks we were gone. That's a lot of stories. There was a lot of stories in there. Well, I'm all told, I thought one album probably not likely, so I started album 1, and when it was full, I then started album 2. That's always an option. So having as much information as you can, what this is going to do is set you up. This is going to set you up for what size of album you're going to buy. This is going to set up, if you have done all of this work, it's going to have in your mind when you go shopping, you're not going to just automatically be reaching for random things. You're going to be looking for things that are specific to you, you're going to be looking for things that work for your story, that work for your purpose. You're going to be thinking about, but I said this was the budget, or I do not have time to learn a new technique and get into all of this. We're not going to go fancy. Because remember, at the bottom line, end of the day, it's your scrapbook. There's not a right way. There's not a wrong way. There's not a good way or a bad way to scrapbook. There's not a correct way to scrapbook. Whatever you decide at the end of the day, even if that means you started your album and then you changed your mind and went a different direction, guys, it's all good. Now, I will share with you personally, I have gone to an adventures only scrapbook. And what I mean by that is I am no longer scrapbooking, generally speaking, I am no longer scrapbooking everyday happenings. I am no longer scrapbooking events that I feel like should be in there. I don't know, maybe life events that I feel like, oh, that should have been in the scrapbook. Years ago, I would have said that. I get the most joy from documenting travels, documenting adventures, like the time we wound up shocked 5 days prior to have tickets to one of the first Taylor Swift Eras concert, and we did not think we were going to get to go because we obviously did not have tickets, and then suddenly we had tickets, and here we go. That's a story I want scrapbooked, but not until I finish this Disney World album, and not until I finish the 3 others in the queue that I have going before that. But when I do, I will be sure to share. And if you have any questions, if I can help you in any way with your scrapbook journey, feel free to leave a comment. And then again, remember, in the description here, I'm putting all of the videos, because this is a lengthy topic, all of our videos down below of things that we're going to talk about, things that I'm going to break down for you, and hopefully help you get from being stuck and how do I start and what do I do, to actually having those finished scrapbooks, being able to flip through and see your life, your adventures, your journeys, the people you love, whatever it is that is motivating you, that makes you want to scrapbook. I want to help you see it. I want to help you get there. So stay tuned. Leave me a comment. I'll see you next time.